Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our Thursday evening Parent Academy webinar session. Thank you for joining. And again, we are excited to have you as audience listeners and participants. I am Tina Foston Hayes, the Parent Academy Specialist for Educational Equity and Outreach for the Alachua County Public Schools, and I welcome you this evening. Tonight, we will receive some helpful information from Ms. Doris from Parent Guidance, and it's going to be on protecting your child with social media. So this should be a great one for us tonight. So just before we begin, I would like to go over some housekeeping elements. Please keep your microphones on mute through the duration of the presentation. We will be monitoring your questions in the Q&A section located at the bottom of your webinar window. Ms. Dora will actually also be using Menti, and she will introduce you all to that and how to sign up. So that way you'll be able to interact with her, and she will provide you with some more information when she begins. So I would like to also let you know that all of our Parent Academy webinars are recorded, and it has closed caption and posted to our website for review, or for folks that weren't able to join us tonight to tune in. Your questions will be answered at the conclusion of each session. If there is a need for a personal conversation between you and I, please take down the Parent Academy's email address. That is parentacademy@gm.sbac.edu. And I will get to those questions and get those forwarded to the proper personnel, or you will have contact with Parent Guidance at the end. She will share that information with you as well. And so without further ado, I will go ahead and turn it over to you, Ms. Dora. Thank you, and we're glad to have you.
Thank you, Tina. I appreciate it. Well, welcome everyone. My name is Dora Garnett, and I will be hosting this evening's session. As we await for a few more folks to join us, feel free to grab a pen and paper for some note-taking tonight. During our time together, you will need your computer to view the content and your phone to use a website called Menti. Menti.com acts as a tool for collaboration, allowing us to engage in interactive activities throughout tonight's session. So what you're seeing on your screen now is the actual website. So if you can either open a new web browser or a tab and type in www.menti.com and enter the code that's on your screen, or you can easily use your camera phone and point it towards that QR code that will take you to the same location for our interactive portion. All right, and once you're there, just give me a thumbs up or click on the heart emoji and let me know that you are in Menti. Gives me an idea how many folks will be joining us here. And while we wait for a few folks, just a reminder, we are going to be using Menti. So this is the way we're going to be interacting this evening. And just like Tina said, we will have Q&A at the end. So give it a couple minutes here just to get everybody logged in. And then Tina, is it possible for me to share that information in the chat? Just to double check with you. I think I only have 2 hosts and panelists and then to yourself as the only option.
So I don't think that our chat works.
Okay.
Because they can't access it.
Yep, that makes sense.
However, if you have a screen that will show at the end the information that you want to give them, or okay.
Yep, that we can do at the end. Perfect. All right, we'll continue on then, so that way we can move on. We do have quite a bit of content to cover, so we will obviously have that menti.com and use code on top of each screen that you'll be seeing tonight. So we'll go ahead and move forward with that. Welcome to our mental health series hosted by parentguidance.org. Again, my name is Dora Garnett. I'm here to lead you through this evening's session. I'd like to express my gratitude to your district leaders for introducing parentguidance.org and to arranging these discussions aimed at assisting you in supporting your child's well-being. Okay. So we are going to start with a Menti question. For those that are on the call, in order for you to access Menti, you need to go to menti.com and use that code on your screen. Otherwise, for those listening to the recording, this is more for just internal thoughts around what will be shared today. But I would love to know what are the age ranges of your children. This really helps me pull together some examples that are related to those age ranges, just helps pinpoint some of the things that you may be seeing in your children. And so for me, I will let you know, I do have elementary children and an adult son, so kind of hit that range as well. So glad to know that we have quite a few parents here tonight with different age ranges of children in their household. So, okay, looks like we have a few more folks who said middle school. Thank you, that's really good to hear. And in terms of what we're going to be sharing today, I think it's going to be very relevant for our middle school parents. However, for those elementary school parents who may have not already given the children access to social media or those devices, you're going to get some great information and strategies as you think about getting your children prepared for those type of tools. All right, let's go ahead and talk about some statistics. I think that will be eye-opening for all of you. So in terms of teens and their smartphones, a staggering 95% of teens have access to a smartphone, and nearly half of our teenagers admit to constantly checking their phones and confessing to feeling addicted to them. Now let's address a noteworthy concern. More than half of American teenagers feel restless or lonely when separated from their phones. Adding another layer to this, it appears that our teenage girls are more prone to these less than pleasant symptoms of phone addiction compared to their male counterparts. Our teens are navigating a vast online world, and understanding these trends can help us guide them through it. So we have one more question in Menti to get us started here. So tonight's session is all around social media. My question to you tonight is, what are the biggest concerns around technology use and your child? Are there things that keep you up around this particular topic when it comes to your children? I would love for you to share some of your thoughts. These responses are anonymous, so no one knows who's responding in which way on Menti. So feel free to add your perspective. And this really helps us, again, have that engaging part of our session tonight, and really at the same time share some great information for other parents to either consider and or reflect on as we think about our own children and social media and technology. So what drove you tonight to sign up for tonight's session, focus on social media use and safeguarding your children? And again, I'll wait for a few folks to respond. And if you just joined us, make sure you go into menti.com, use that code to participate in this interactive activity. Thank you for those that were able to chime in here. Not being able to monitor everything, I think that's a very spot on comment there, that they can't come in contact with. When we talk about social media, they have access to that whole internet web that we know, and some of the stuff that's out there we don't even know is out there. And so really trying to figure out, what are they looking at, what are they accessing, and you can't always be in front of them all the time. So I think that's a really good one. Predators on social media, such a huge issue right now. We hear about in the news a lot about this, right? Those folks who are getting into these groups within those interactions our children are having, that sometimes our children aren't able to decipher whether or not these people are safe. And then cyberbullying is a huge one, especially for our younger children, and inappropriate site access. Yes, that is certainly a concern of mine as well. So I definitely relate to all of those things that you shared with me tonight. So I'm hoping tonight you'll get some strategies, some things to think about, and maybe some tools to implement with your own children as you look at social media and how it impacts their lives. So let's go ahead and look at are you finding yourself uneasy about the amount of time your child spends on their devices, or the kind of content they're exposed to? Navigating how much responsibility we should place on our children for self-regulation with their devices can be tricky. How do you set up guidelines for device usage in your household? Let's dive into these questions together, sharing experiences and gaining insights not only from each other, but also from our knowledgeable clinical director at parentguidance.org. Dr. Kevin Skinner is the clinical director of parentguidance.org. He is also a licensed marriage and family therapist. Dr. Skinner has put together our coursework for this evening. So let's get ready to explore the keys to effective parenting in the digital age. We'll uncover enlightening facts about devices, help you build heightened device awareness, and even discuss the world of parental control apps. Throughout our time together, we'll gauge your understanding of social media, filling in any knowledge gaps. And by the end of this session, you'll walk away with fresh insights and a renewed motivation, empowering you in safeguarding your child in the digital realm. Dr. Skinner teaches 3 core components of effective parenting that lead to good outcomes in children. These are important because these core components are the foundation of effective parenting. You may want to write these down in your notebooks. The importance of parental warmth is the first one, which is a warm feeling we give to our children through our words and actions. Number 2, monitoring your child's behavior, knowing where your kids are, who their friends are, what they do in their spare time, how they spend their money. It means you are genuinely engaged in your child's day-to-day activities. By monitoring their behavior, it sends a message to our children that we love them and we care about them. However, there is a fine line between monitoring and controlling their behavior. And the final parenting style or effective parenting is the importance of parenting styles and not playing mind games with your child to avoid psychological control. We do not want to use manipulative tactics to control them, such as bringing up past mistakes or emphasizing their weaknesses. While you watch our first video, let's make sure you all can hear me. So just want to make sure everybody's good to go. And if you can hear me, you can give me a thumbs up there. Just lets me know that you are all listening in. Now, let's listen to Dr. Skinner as he explains more about how to parent effectively.
Now, this is the effectiveness of what we would say good parenting can be. Now, I don't know about you guys, but for me personally, this is something that I've had to work on. Staying engaged when it's so easy to go home from a long day's work and tune out. Our children also might be doing the same thing after a difficult day at school or with their friends. As parents, we need to stay engaged and involved, monitoring what's going on. I find that it's actually a little bit easier for me to just push it along. I'll check tomorrow. I'll talk with them tomorrow. And really, what we're looking for here is trying to maintain it, that awareness of what's happening in their lives, not only at school, but on their screens, and being aware. So this is kind of what I'm saying is the foundation. We need to be aware and we need to be involved. So concept number 1, understand, are their basic needs being met, and are we staying involved in their lives in a way that we're communicating with them regularly, that we're monitoring their behaviors, and we're giving them the warmth and the connection that they long for and they desire. So this is kind of the foundation of what everything else I'm going to be talking about in this course. Let's start there, because if those things aren't happening, everything else I talk about after this is not going to be effective. You can try to monitor your child's screen time, but if they don't feel connection, if they don't feel like you care, if they don't feel like you're involved in a loving way, they're not going to listen. They're going to feel like you're controlling. They're going to resist you. They're going to fight back. They're going to swear, cuss, whatever, because you're taking away their comfort. Does that concept make sense? If you take away what they're connecting to and don't have an alternative, they're going to resist it. So the foundation of a good relationship is imperative for success in our parenting roles.
How is your connection with your child? Some children are more accessible to connect with than others. Make sure you take time to focus on the needs of each child. Let's explore the reality of our digital companions, those indispensable devices we've grown to rely on. When it comes to giving them to our kids, what do we really need to know? Well, Dr. Skinner has some great insights to share on this topic.
As parents, we can't protect our children from everything that they're going to be exposed to. But sometimes we think we may be monitoring what's actually happening, and in reality, we're not doing that. So as we think about our homes, we think about the devices in our homes, is there any monitoring? Is there anything that measures or looks at or explores what websites are being visited? As a parent, we have to be very conscientious and aware of what's happening on our children's screens. Are they being bullied? Are they experiencing criticism? What apps have they downloaded? These are all questions that as parents, we need to have device awareness. As hard as it is, as parents, we can help our children by showing that we care. I know one father who said, look, just so you know, when I give you this phone, smartphone, that everything that happens on it, we're going to be aware. It has a filter because we want to protect you. Before giving their child a device, they had clear boundaries and expectations of what that phone could have and could not have. Certain apps the children were not allowed to have on their phones until they got older and could understand and have more communication. So it was step by step, giving them more and more freedom and letting them govern themselves as they got older and show that they could discipline themselves. One more point here. We now know that the more screen time has been directly related to emotional challenges like anxiety and depression. So increase in screen time, smartphone use, can trigger an increase in mental health issues like anxiety and depression. One study was absolutely fascinating on this, and it found that the more time children spent on like Facebook, like this, like that, looking to how many likes do I have, the more depressed they were. Now, again, this is just information for you as a parent to be aware of. You're going to want to educate your child on these issues with anxiety, with depression, so they understand what this device is used for and also that there's going to be limitations. This is a foundational part of being aware and involved in our children's lives.
Stay in the loop and be part of your child's world. Keep an eye on their devices and establish clear boundaries. Let me say that again. Keep an eye on their devices and establish clear boundaries. Just like we don't toss the car keys to a 16-year-old without teaching them the ropes, the same logic applies to handing a phone to your child, especially a child under 16. Expecting them to navigate it all on their own is a bit like hoping they'll figure out driving without any lessons. Now let's take the same thoughtful approach, teach them the ropes, and gradually let them take the wheel. It's about increasing independence and responsibility one step at a time, all while keeping a close eye on things. It's not just about monitoring, it's about paying attention and guiding them with love. We're going to go back into Menti. For those that joined us, you'll go into menti.com and use that access code that's on your screen. The question for all of you is, what tech boundaries would you consider using in your home? And there's several options here for you to think about. Establish screen time limits, no devices in bedrooms, utilize parental control, develop media literacy skills. Now, how much time do they spend on devices? And some of you already have children in terms of using these devices. You know, how did you determine those boundaries will be important as well. As parents, it's our responsibility to ensure their time is well spent. Let's practice what we preach and manage our own device time before advising our kids. And that's really important because as adults, we have our work and our family life and our social life, and we also depend on our phones. But in order for us to be models for our children, we also need to manage our devices in a similar way that we expect our children to do, which I know can be hard, especially when you've already kind of come up with a structure and how you end up using it. So things to consider here. Establishing screen time limits is obviously important. It's not just for your phone. It could be for your TVs at home or your video games that you have at consoles that you have at home. And then no devices in the bedroom. That could include your TV. That could be parents' TV as well as your children's TV in their bedrooms. Again, utilizing parental controls, being aware of what those controls are and how to implement them within the devices that they're using. So their phones and TVs, because all of those devices do have a way to set those, and then develop media literacy skills. And that's one that we're all working on, including the teachers in your school district, because again, we're trying to have children understand what is it that's important to really understand when they are using any type of information, whether it's on the internet, in the newspaper, in even in other types of media. So it's really important that we talk through those things. All right, so thank you for sharing your thoughts there. So yes, establishing those daily or weekly screen times is going to be really important. Devices, like I mentioned, discourage the use of smartphones and other devices in their bedroom, especially at night, and then establish a charging station outside the bedrooms to avoid late night screening, which again, if you have children already accessing or using their devices, might be a harder thing to do than kind of implementing at the front end when you're thinking about providing them those devices. And then again, utilizing parental controls. You can set up filters to block inappropriate content and monitor their online activities. All right, let's go ahead and ask you another question in terms of how have you used any of these parental control apps? So many of you, these may be new to you, but for some, you may have seen these before. Remember when I said we would be learning from each other? Technology changes so quickly. They are always coming up with new and improved apps that parents can use. So let's turn to our phones and share in Menti. Have you utilized any of these apps to help protect and monitor your children? So some of these, so the first one is Bark. And we're going to talk about these in a little bit. So even if you don't know what they are, we'll share kind of what they do and how they support parents. Custodio, Guardian, Boomerang. Then we have that Kaspersky, Safe Kids, and then Net Nanny. Go ahead and answer. Okay, it looks like we have someone who said Kaspersky. I might even be saying it wrong. Safe Kids. So yes, there's quite a few resources, and it looks like we'll be learning something new about these resources for you as well, our apps. So it only looks like just a few of you know about some of these apps. So in addition to parental control apps, I'd like to emphasize an additional layer of defense, actively monitoring your child's online and social media activities. This proactive approach supplements parental controls and forms an integral part of your family's comprehensive online safety routine. All right, so let's go ahead and continue on. We'll talk about some of this in just a second here. Parents play an important role in a child's life. Being aware of your child's habits and actions is just part of being a parent. Dr. Skinner is going to explain more about device awareness.
Now, in this part, I want to talk about device awareness. It's really being aware of what's actually happening on the devices in our home. The concept here is intentional consumption. Now, really, we're talking about boundaries. As we look at our own screen time as parents, and we look at our children's screen time, which can be monitored, we begin to recognize how much time each day, each week is being spent on our devices. If we're going to have these devices in our lives, we want to be aware. As parents, we want to have intentional awareness of what's actually happening on the screens. And here are ideas that you can consider. Number one, discuss your family guidelines and why they are important. Think about it as a parent. Why are guidelines important? If your child's consuming something 7 to 9 hours a day, that's a lot of time. Contrast that with 2 hours or 3 hours a day. So intentionally focus on what are our family guidelines. Have a discussion. What are these guidelines going to be? And does it apply to the whole family? Now, some people say, yeah, but I'm working and they're doing school. Yes, I'm talking about non-education or work-related time. That's concept number one. Number two is hold regular discussions and follow-up. Right? Just because now they've got this device, are we never going to talk about it again? No. We're going to spend time talking about our devices, what's happening, how much time. We might actually have a powwow at the end of every week when you get your screen report that says you've spent this much time on these apps. So I would have regular conversations and let your children know we're going to be talking about this on a regular basis. Now, this takes time. It takes energy. But I want you to remember that behavioral monitoring is what leads to good outcome. Again, not control, but attention. We're giving them attention in a way that says, I care about this, and I care about us, and I care about you as my child.
We're going to go back into Menti and we're going to look at 4 internet safety recommendations from a national expert. I'd like you to rate them from 1 to 10 on the level of importance to you. So it is recommended that kids should be at least 13 to start any social media account. Take a look at the community rules. Some apps have minimum ages of 16 or 18 that you should be aware of. So how important is this to you in terms of starting any social media account at 13? And then next one down is know their friends personally, not friends of friends. So we know that often happens with social media accounts where a child is logged in as in their own account and all of a sudden they're getting these friend requests from people they may not know personally, right? So the recommendation is that your child only connect with their friends that they have personal connections with. And then the next recommendation is not have Wi-Fi connected devices in bedrooms, bathrooms, and behind closed doors. Again, something that will be very helpful for your children. And this may be difficult to do because when it comes to Wi-Fi, you can't really block any area of your house, right? So I think it's a really great recommendation. And then finally, have less than 200 social media friends. Goes back to that second one we just mentioned. So yeah, very important. I think for me as a parent, again, I have an adult son and I didn't get to put in the guidelines that were recommended here when he was a teenager. So I think for my younger children who are not yet teenagers, I'm going to definitely think about, starting them at 13 or even older, depending on those apps that I just mentioned. And that friends of friends, it gets out of control even for me as an adult when you're looking at all these social media accounts that we all have. And the other thing is, like, sometimes you don't even know who these people are when they're trying to reach out and trying to connect. So I think these are really good recommendations for all of you to at least use as guidelines when you're looking at getting your child prepared for social media. All right, so let's go ahead and look at a scenario and see how it gets played. So let me play that here. I was getting some issues here on my end. Okay.
I'm in 6th grade and my mom doesn't want me to have a phone.
I'm worried my
my daughter will grow up too fast if she has a phone.
Hi, I'm Dr. Kevin Skinner with Parent Guidance. I'm going to walk you through a sequence between a mother and a daughter. Sixth grade daughter wants a cell phone. Mom has some concerns.
I'm worried I'm gonna miss out on what my friends are saying. I won't know any of the inside jokes.
As we watch this sequence, we see a daughter who has some legitimate concerns. Mom, on the other hand, has some legitimate concerns too. You notice that in asking ourselves the question, what is their concern? We're trying to put ourselves in their shoes. These types of important questions are the ones that we have to step back and intentionally think through, because if we don't, they're using the phone with no guidance. And as parents today, the average child is getting a cell phone earlier and earlier, but are we doing it intentionally?
I don't want her to be contacted by people I don't know or approve of.
I won't be invited anywhere.
What if she finds content that isn't safe for her?
One of the best first steps we can take is try to understand what the other person is saying. If we say to our daughter, I'm afraid that you'll be exposed to content that I don't want you to see, or things that I don't think are appropriate. We need to educate them and help them understand, whether that's on their phone, a computer, on the television. We need to have a conversation so they have the opportunity to come to us, which is one of the more critical parts, is can we come to each other where there may be a difficult conversations?
I'll miss out on important group chats.
But if she doesn't have a phone, I won't be able to reach her in an emergency.
Yeah, if I don't have a phone, I won't be able to reach my mom in an emergency.
So,
what do we do?
What would you do?
So as we look at this, what do we do? Perhaps the most important thing is that we have an open dialogue about what it means. Even before a cell phone is given, what is the conversation about? Apps? What apps are we going to use or not allow? Or what amount of time are they going to spend? Where is the phone going to be in the evening or at nighttime? These important questions, if they're done properly, can be guidelines for how to protect our daughter in this situation. The next part that we really want to pay close attention to is they both are trying to express their concern. Do they have a good enough relationship that they can talk about what they want? Imagine with me, the mom says, no, you're not going to get a phone because I said so. In contrast, hey, I understand that you want the phone, that you don't want to be left out of the group, and I understand that you really want to be able to communicate with your friends. I want that for you too. And we just crossed a different bridge, and that bridge is the one of understanding and actually validating the child's concern. In conclusion, regardless of what you do as a parent, I strongly recommend that you seek to understand, that you communicate about what the concerns are, and then make a decision based upon what you agree upon and why you've come to that conclusion. That would be how I would solve this issue. I'm Dr. Kevin Skinner with this Parent Guidance Moment. Thank you for sharing this moment with me.
Behavioral monitoring is what leads to good outcomes, not controlling, but monitoring. Nobody likes being blindsided, but we know it's going to happen. There are definitely things you can do to be aware of the likely possibility of what kids will stumble upon or seek out online. Dr. Skinner will explain what we need to do to avoid being blindsided.
Being blindsided means we have absolutely no idea that something could be happening. I know for a fact that 90% of adolescents are going to be exposed to pornography, for example. I know that many of them are going to experience being bullied. Many of them are going to feel lonely. Many of them are going to feel left out. Many of them are going to feel alone. That's just a reality. Can they come to me as a parent and can they talk about these experiences in an environment that I'm there for them? The way that we're going to avoid being blindsided is to be aware of the possibilities and then to educate our children on what those possibilities are. So we're going to monitor what's happening. I can't emphasize this enough. Are there limitations on when your computer or your internet is turned on and off? Can they access at any time? Is it being filtered, or is there a monitoring system that you know what's going on? If we're going to avoid being blindsided, we need to check those things regularly and have conversations with our children. So that's concept number one. Number two is invite a discussion. Now, let's role play this. So these are two parts. We're going to invite a discussion, and then we're going to role play. What would you do in this situation to my son or daughter? What would you do in this situation? What if you got an email threatening you, and they said, if you told anybody, we're going to hurt your family? Now, that may sound like, oh, that's not going to happen, but it's not uncommon for our children to have some kind of being bullied or being made fun of, being picked on, because as they engage in some of these devices, they might be a part of a group, they might be left out of a group, they might have whatever the experience is that makes them feel like they're not good enough. Can they come to us? So as parents, if we're going to avoid being blindsided, we should almost expect, what will you do? This is preparatory, what we would call a fire drill. What would you do in this situation? Would you come and talk to me? And how would we create a scenario? What would you do in this situation? And let them talk. And then we might guide them through it. Do you see how we're step by step preparing them for possibilities? So if it happens, and most likely when it happens, the only way we'll be blindsided is if we don't look ourselves. We can't put our head in the proverbial sand and hope that they just turn out okay. We need to make sure that we're not going to be blindsided by staying aware, involved, knowing what's happening, inviting the conversations, and role-playing with our children. What would you do in this situation? How did you handle this? And here's what I experienced. I had a similar experience, and sharing with them our experiences on these devices as well.
Monitoring includes open conversations with your child, not a one and done conversation. Revisit the topic, revisit it often, so often they know you will be checking in with them consistently. Let's dive deeper into monitoring. Do you know what content your kids have on their devices? To learn some facts, we're going to play a game using Menti. You will want to play along, so get your phones ready. You will be assigned a character and then click join quiz on your phone to play along. So let's go ahead and get that started. Oh, looks like you guys all joined in. So first question is, a calculator app can hide images or files. True or false? Okay, there is a timer here. So, okay, looks like everybody voted. Awesome, thank you. Okay, half and half. All right, so a calculator app can hide images or files. It's true, actually. Yes, kids today are using the disguise of other apps. They may look like your run-of-the-mill calculator, but may be hiding secret pictures and files. The best way to monitor this is by looking at the app memory size in the phone settings. If it is greater than 30 megabytes, it's large and may contain hidden content. Okay, I'm going to ask you another question here. Okay, here we go. Again, another true or false, cyberbullying peaks at ages 14 and 15 years old. True or false? Okay, here we go. Let's see what you guys voted. Okay. Between ages 12 and 15 of age, cyberbullying is most prevalent, but it peaks at 14 and 15-year-old. Even more specifically in girls. However, no student is completely safe from bullying, whether at school or online. So their peers can pick up anything about them that makes them different and use that to isolate, alienate, and bully them. And often parents are unaware this is taking place because it's happening behind the scenes. So cyberbullying peaks at ages 14 and 15. Here's your next question. Okay, here we go. What percentage of adolescents will be exposed to pornography? So we have less than 50, 50 to 70, 75 to 85, or 90 or more. What percentage of adolescents will be exposed to pornography? Okay, let's see what you guys voted. Awesome. We know that 90% of adolescents will be exposed to pornography. Dr. Skinner even mentioned that in his previous video. 10% admit to daily viewing. It is essential to talk about uncomfortable topics openly with your child. Create that what if scenario so you can help your child know you will not just vent your emotions. When they come to you with concerns, by having these conversations beforehand, we are preparing ourselves and our children for what could happen to them. Instead of pretending it won't happen and leaving them wondering how you will react when it does happen. Let's see what you know in regards to Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, and Discord. All right, this is the leaderboard. Thank you. It looks like Anne was at the top of the leaderboard. And we have those listed below. Great job. Thank you for answering those quickly, right? Because also how quickly you answered them was the way we would tell who was on the leaderboard. So here are some things parents often think about when they think about Instagram. My child has just one account for Instagram, and I follow my child, so I see everything they post. Or maybe I know how many people follow my child on social media. The reality is that kids often have multiple Instagram accounts, and the platform even encourages this based on their audience. While parents might follow the safe account where the child shares positive content, it's possible that your child has other accounts that you might not approve of. It's crucial to understand that users can control who sees their content, and kids can easily hide content from their parents. Here's what you need to know. Users can block anyone they don't want to see their content. Users can mute friends to stay connected without seeing their content. And then it's important to keep track of how many followers your kids have across the accounts. Reports are accessible for your child's Instagram account, showing how much time they spend on it. And this could be something you might want to check out and explore to set some usage goals. Now, in 2021, TikTok transformed from a single simple dance video trend into an internet top app within 5 years. Notably, a recent study revealed that Gen Z users are increasingly using TikTok as their primary search engine, replacing Google. Parents might assume their youngest child or young child is safest in the 13 and under user group, but it's crucial to realize that no age verification is required on TikTok. Were you also aware that users spend an average of 105 minutes per day on TikTok? By June of 2022, that app had begun sending reminders to teenage users, encouraging them to take breaks after 100 minutes of daily use. TikTok customizes content to match the user's preferences, providing videos tailored to their viewing habits. Imagine how captivating it must be to engage someone for over an hour and a half on average. If your child uses TikTok, do you know how much time they spend on it? If you feel you know very little about TikTok, you're quickly becoming the exception, as it has become a global, widespread platform. Now, finally, Snapchat is primarily designed for images and messages to disappear immediately, but you can change the setting to save photos for up to 24 hours. On Android, the content can be retrieved for up to 30 days by accessing the cache folder on the device. Additionally, users can send text messages throughout Snapchat. Here are some key points about Snapchat. Private doesn't necessarily mean safe from harm. 2, your child has control over who they accept as friends on Snapchat, and Snapchat offers private and public stories, allowing users to hide content from specific people, including their parents. They can choose who their stories are hidden from, and Snapchat features a map that shares the user's exact location. It's essential to check with your child to see if this feature is turned on, as it may not be safe for others to know their location at all times. And such a critical point there that some apps do provide the user's exact location. How scary is that? This is ideal time to have conversations with your child about Snapchat safety and responsibility. The next one's a fairly new one for me, as my children are now exposed to this app. So I'll share with you a little bit more information about this one. Discord is a popular platform for kids to chat with friends while playing video games like Fortnite, Minecraft, and Among Us. It combines features of a chat room and Skype, where you need an invitation to join or find a link on the web. So let's consider where these features are good or bad for this one. Users can chat with each other via text or voice. Well, the good thing about that is it allows kids to communicate with real life friends when playing together. But in terms of the bad, can be risky, as predators may engage with children on a kid-friendly channel and then move the conversation to unmonitored direct messages. You have to be invited to join Discord server and groups, which is great because then your teens can use Discord to avoid unknown individuals. However, a single user can join up to 100 servers with up to 500 members, and it takes only one person in the group to let in a potential predator. Notably, Discord was named on the 2021 Dirty Dozen list by the National Center of Sexual Exploitation as a significant contributor to the sexual exploitation of children. Did you know that kids can use screen record to capture passwords you enter on their devices for future use? This feature is available on both Apple and Android devices, even when screen restrictions are in place. So really important to note that, because again, your kids can circumvent your ability to set those parental controls. Expect challenges. Rewards come with challenges. Challenges come with having kids. Let's learn what kind of challenges we can expect as we give devices to our children and how to work through them.
If you're going to give your child a smartphone, if they're going to be consuming computer games or whatever, simply expect challenges. A few years ago, there was a researcher who actually did a very interesting study for all of us. He was put some monkeys in, they were in their cages, and he gave them Kool-Aid. And every day they just went and pushed on this button, got the Kool-Aid, drank the Kool-Aid, and then he took the Kool-Aid away. Whoo-wee! Those monkeys got angry. They would go over there, and the anticipation of this sugary drink, when it was water, they started getting angry. The anticipation of the sugar, and then not getting it, they got upset. Well, as a parent, when your child continually is consuming without guidelines or boundaries, when you try to remove that, you might likely going to get a temper tantrum. So what do? Well, you stick to your guns. You do it out of love and kindness. But even acknowledging, it seems like when I mention not having your phone or being on it so much, you get angry. That's not okay. I love you too much to let it control your life. And so I'm inviting you here really to have this open dialogue of conversation about these emotions, about what they're feeling. And you're going to expect challenges. If they're already consumed by it, they're spending time. We received a question here at Parent Guidance that I found very, very interesting. And the question had a lot to do with this teenager who couldn't sleep and was on her phone till 3 a.m. It was calming her mind on her phone, and wasn't sleeping. And I thought about, this phone is the coping mechanism. It's what's soothing the anxious mind. Mentally, that's what she thinks. But in reality, that phone, she doesn't know how to live with it. What I refer to as solitude deprivation, when you can't live without your device. As parents, we need to help them slowly move away from those habits or those patterns that have been created. So how do we do that? The first step that I want to talk about is being aware of it. Being aware that they might get angry, much like the monkeys. You might even share the monkey story with them or have them watch this video series with you. But if they're feeling that emotional need to do that, just ask them to take it away for a day. Ask them to feel what it's like not having the device and the emotions that they have when they aren't on it. So give them an experiment. What happens when that phone or device is not around? What would you pick up? What would you do if you didn't have it? So think about this just for a minute. How much time do you pick up your phone each day? Now let's remove it. Let's take ourselves away from it for a period of time. Even if it's a half a day, try this experiment with your children. Just try it, test it. And then ask yourself this question. Can we use our devices in moderation or not? Can we live intentionally or not?
Do you have any of those crazy monkeys in your house when you take away their devices? If so, it's probably time to set those boundaries. So just like Dr. Skinner mentioned, here are some things to consider as you help them overcome a device addiction. Make a plan, monitor use as a family, create a check-in policy, remove from the bedrooms at night, check-in devices at a particular time each night, and release them at a specific time the next day. Again, establish those screen-free zones and model healthy boundaries. So important for us as parents to model that healthy boundaries. Just like those monkeys, if you give your child something they love and learn to depend on it, then suddenly decide to remove it or monitor it closely, you will get some significant pushback. Let's review what we've learned this evening.
So remember, we've talked about understanding our children's most basic needs. Are they getting nurtured? Are we having eye contact? Do they hear a tone of voice that's connecting and warm? Do they see facial expressions that are inviting? So concept number one, make sure that we are connecting in helping meet our children's most basic needs. Number two, we've talked about monitoring, and it matters. If we aren't monitoring, then we're giving what we would call a permissive parenting, letting our children just do whatever they want to do. If we're going to be effective, we want to monitor, not control, but monitor. The next part is that we want to observe. As parents, we're observing, we're setting guidelines, boundaries, observing family rules, and having family rules. As a family, you can come up with your family rules around screen time, around how you spend your time. Are we going to have phones at the dinner table or not? Are we going to have conversations in the morning, or are we going to sit and look at our devices? Observe the patterns, set the patterns that you want, and live by them. And finally, I want to talk about playing a game. Now, a lot of people say, well, what do you mean by that? Well, the research shows that when we play games, when we have fun, it's actually much more effective. So let's play a game. Let's play a game with a phone, a smartphone. And here's how you're going to play the game. Take it away. Just take it away for a day. And instead of being with your phone, do something else. Play a game. Go for a walk. Go for a hike without your devices. And at the end of the day, come back and talk about the experience. The point is this: observe what life is like without the smart devices. Observe what happens in the interactions, the conversations, the emotional mood. And what you'll discover, and what your children may discover, is that our moods actually improve the less time we spend on our phones and the more boundaries we have related to it. Now, there's one final part that I want to teach today that actually is not related, and yet it is related to today's topic. Thich Nhat Hanh referred to a concept called deep listening. Now, deep listening is when we are really attuned to another person. We are aware of them. We're involved with them in whatever their journey is. The sorrows, the excitement, the happy, the sad. And so here's what he said. The most precious gift you can give to those you love is your true presence. And I can tell you as a professional therapist, the best parental advice I can give you is stay connected, have a meaningful conversation. That's what your children will remember when you're gone. So Thich Nhat Hanh also said, if we love someone, we should train in being able to listen. By listening with calm and understanding, we can ease the suffering of another person. If your child is anxious, if your child is depressed, spend some time listening. Feel their pain, feel their suffering, feel their hurt. That connection is what's going to help them, and you'll be much more effective in helping them with their device management if you can do the basic need connection that we're talking about here. This will be one of the most helpful things that you will do to meet their most basic needs. So when it comes to helping them understand how to use their cell phones, their smartphones, their screen time, your connection with them will help you have a bigger influence on how they consume. My invitation is to stay involved, stay engaged, and be aware. Thank you for spending time with me in this course. May you and your child be blessed with wisdom as you learn deep listening skills. Thank you very much.
So we've learned so much this evening from Dr. Skinner and one another. I hope you leave this session feeling more empowered to help your child. One of those resources we like to share with you here at the Cook Center for Human Connection, where we are driven by the mission of bringing together resources that have demonstrated effectiveness in creating the human connections that are vital for strong mental wellness. Is one of those resources is parentguidance.org. And it is a free resource for all of you. For those that have attended one of these sessions before, you'll know that you have access to this 24/7, and there are some great resources there. Tina, I know we wanted to leave some time for Q&A, so I'm going to stop here. I'm happy to go in if we need to, but I wanted to just give you the mic and kind of finish up our evening.
Yes, thank you. So for my parents that are still joined in, if you have any questions or anything that you would like her to go in a little bit further into, please feel free to drop that in the Q&A question board at the bottom of your webinar window. And then if they can't get their questions out and want to connect with you or someone from Parent Guidance, how would we do that?
So you can there'll be a follow-up email, I believe, that will have our contact information. So you can reply back, or I'll have someone's name there that you can easily send a question to. You can send it to me too, but I think probably the best way is through parentguidance.org. And the other thing is, Tina, you can also capture those, anything that you're not able to answer. If you want to send it over to Sandy, we can get those answered for folks too.
Wonderful. So, so if you guys don't put in questions here, you can definitely still reach out to me at the Parent Academy email address, and I will get them forwarded over to Parent Guidance and get you in contact with them, so that way you all can have that extra communication and connect with them personally to find out all of the resources that are provided for our Alachua County families.
Yes. And then
Thank you so much.
last thing I wanted to say, you have it on your screen. Our next session will be January 25th, and we're going to be talking about de-escalating cycles of conflict. Again, each webinar will be recorded, so if you can't make it, we will send you that follow-up recorded link.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate you coming on and spending this evening with us. It was very informative. So I even learned a lot. You say you have an adult child. I have one that is in her freshman year of college, and then I have a middle schooler and then also a toddler.
Yes.
So so it was definitely informative for me. And it is a lot of work. But if we want them to have these devices, then I think, we have to get within ourselves to say, are you ready
Yes.
to give them these devices because it's more work on you, so yeah. So I definitely enjoyed this evening. I hope that all of our parents did too, and that they learned some much needed information out of it. So I thank you guys for joining us. And I don't see any questions in the Q&A, so I will go ahead and close us out.
Okay.
So I just would like to thank everyone again for joining us tonight. We appreciate you each week with joining us, and you're available to connect with us for more informative presentations and discussions just like this one. Once again, I am Tina Foston Hayes, the Parent Academy Specialist for Educational Equity and Outreach for the Alachua County Public Schools. And I will see you back here, not this Thursday coming, because we will be going on Christmas break. So I will be right back onto it that following Thursday. Miss Jackie Johnson will send you out the information as always in Peach Jar and on our social media so that you know what is coming up for January. And other than that, you guys have a wonderful evening. Happy holidays. And I will see you back here. Thank you again for joining us tonight. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. You guys have a good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.